Hello, and thank you for being here and for welcoming me so warmly on this cold New Jersey Sunday. My name is Mary Mazza, and I am thrilled to be here to share with all of you the village of our ancestors, the village of San Pietro Apostolo. I have to say, I never really knew anything about Long Branch, New Jersey until I went to San Pietro Apostolo. I saw a license plate in a car that said Long Branch, and then a plaque on the pews in the church stating that the pews had been donated by the Society of San Pietrese in Long Branch, New Jersey. I really had no idea that Long Branch was so important. My family originally went to Hamilton, New Jersey, and then further north to Utica in central New York. I always knew about Hamilton, but I never knew anything about Long Branch. I have subsequently learned the importance and significance of this place, and I again thank you for welcoming me so warmly. So, welcome. Welcome home to Calabria. Welcome home to San Pietro Apostolo. So, this is Calabria. It was settled in 700 BC by the Greeks, and then dominated by the ancient Bruzzi tribe, the Romans, and Germanic barbarians, the Ostrogoths. Then came the Saracens from the Arabian East, the Normans, the Spaniards, French, and Austrians. Everyone wanted this land, which offered rich soil, temperate climate, and seaports for trade. There it is, the tip of the Italian boot. I like to say it's kicking Sicily. It's a 20-minute ferry ride across the Strait of Messina to Sicily. Really, just long enough to get one of the best arancini, the little rice balls, or big rice balls as the case may be, the best arancini in the world. My sister gets on the ferry and makes a beeline to the snack bar. So here we are, Calabria. You can see we have 500 miles or 800 kilometers of beaches. And the Aspromonte mountain range, that's the mountain range that actually extends all the way from northern Italy all the way down the center of the country. The highest peak in our region is about 6,500 feet. We have 3 national parks in Calabria: Aspromonte, Pollino, and Sila. Together with the seashores and the beaches, Calabria is actually truly an amazing and beautiful place. So let's look a little bit closer. Let's look at the narrowest part of the entire country. It's only about, and this is called the Isthmus, or the Saddle of Catanzaro. It's only about 30 kilometers or 18 and a half miles across, and people actually do treks from coast to coast. Look down a little bit further to look and see the villages. These are our villages: San Pietro Apostolo, Cicala, Gimigliano, Decolatura, Serastretta, Soveria Manelli, Carlopoli, Castagna, Tiriolo, Amato, Marcellinara. And of course there are others, smaller, but this is just a number of them. We really can't speak of the region and of immigration and of this whole story without referencing a little bit of Italian history. Italy's actually only been a unified country since 1861. We say unified, but it's not really entirely true. It became politically unified, but not at all economically. And to this day, this continues to be a struggle for the country and most definitely for the region. In 1861, the Kingdom of the Two Sicilies joined the North and became part of the Kingdom of Italy. This is the story of Garibaldi and the Thousand-Men March that came from Sicily all the way through the region, excuse me, through the region, and met the king there in Naples. He then handed over essentially the South to the kingdom, and the country became unified. It truly wasn't until 1866 when Venice and the Veneto region was ceded by the Austrians to the kingdom, and then in 1870 when the French troops stopped protecting it, Italy entered Rome, and it too joined the Kingdom of Italy, so that the territorial unification was ultimately complete in 1870. But even after the unification, tremendous inequality existed. All that was promised really was not delivered, unfortunately. Industry was actually taken from the south and brought to the north. Feudalism continued with little hope for the common man to ever attain land. Then you add illiteracy, tribal mentality, towns and villages geographically isolated by both terrain and language. And you can see where the problem is. In addition, like we need anything more, it actually got worse. Cholera, earthquakes, absent landlords, poor stewardship of the land led to deforestation, and extremely low production from the land. This is what they lived on. They lived on the land. If the land was not being taken care of, then of course everyone was going to suffer. They had to leave. No government was going to be able to fix all of this. And this led to the Italian diaspora. Here on the slide, that's the ship that my great-grandfather actually came over to the United States in, the Lombardia. And if you look closely at the ship's manifest there, you can see that his name is actually the first name on that manifest, showing when and how he came to the United States through Ellis Island. So this is the story of Italian immigration. From 1880 to 1914, 13 million Italians migrated out of Italy. 13 million. Of those, 4 million arrived in the United States. And we always think that, they all came to the United States. They didn't. They went all over the world. Australia, Argentina, Brazil, other countries in Europe. They went everywhere. During this period, 3 million of them, between 1900 and 1914, 3 million people came to the United States. Mostly from the southern regions of Italy, like Abruzzo, Campania, Puglia, Basilicata, and Calabria, and certainly from the island of Sicily. Interestingly, most didn't really plan to stay. They planned to stay a few years, make a lot of money, take their money, and go home, or make money and send money home. And I did not know this, but it is estimated that about 46% of the Italians who entered the United States between 1899 and 1924 permanently returned home. In that time period, the ritornati sent or took home between $4 and $30 million every year. Unbelievable. Their goal, again, was to earn money and send it home so that they could buy land, which was a totally new concept for them, pay off debts, or fund a marriage. But what they met when they got to the United States, especially, harsh working conditions, unbelievable racism and discrimination. I truly do believe that they wanted to go home, and indeed, many did. A lot of times they would go back and forth, but again, the goal was to earn money and to send it home. Or take it home and then return and continue their lives as before. But we are the children of those who stayed. And what was the difference? What's the difference between those who stayed? Why did some stay and why did some return? That is a picture of my great-grandfather, Pietro Mazza, and one of his daughters, Tessie, and his son, Pietro. Despite the conditions that they met in the United States, some stayed. A lot of this was because that steady work was there, and it certainly beat the uncertainty that was going to be ever present in Italy. Some of the men who originally planned to return, they went there individually, and then they ultimately sent for their families. Once families got there and they were reunited, return rates dropped sharply. In addition, children anchored families in place. When the children were there and they were enrolled in school and they were becoming more American, it was more and more difficult for them to leave all of that and go back to Italy. They found themselves able to buy houses and businesses, and ultimately they changed from migrants to settlers. And essentially that's what happened here in Long Branch. After the war, after World War I, there were actually many more limits on quotas, and it became much more difficult to go back and forth. And so there was always that fear that they would return to Italy and then not be able to come back to the United States. And so they chose to stay in the United States rather than risk permanent separation from their income as well as their family. So the politics in Italy have never been easy, and certainly they weren't then. They were facing World War I and then the rise of Mussolini and fascism in the 30s and 40s. So in addition, the economic hardship and the divide continued in the South, and there really was little hope for improvement. Ultimately, communities were formed like Long Branch, like Utica, like Hamilton, with people speaking similar dialects, eating similar food, and joining together in church. They started to develop a new sense of pride and dignity and belonging. And again, once the kids went to school and started to become American, the parents stayed, even if their hearts remained in Italy. But the bottom line is you never forget where you come from. That's my father, Raymond Mazza. And I grew up with this from the time I can remember. You never forget where you come from. We have always known, my sisters and I have always known about San Pietro Apostolo. My father talked about it, my grandfather talked about it, and of course my great-grandfather must have spoken to them about it as well. You never forget where you come from because it forms your foundation. It defines who you are and describes who you are. So this is the beginning of my journey. So this is where I come from. This is San Pietro Apostolo. This is actually the great-granddaughter of the little boy in that previous slide of my Uncle Peter. She came home a couple of years ago to San Pietro Apostolo and embraced the experience as well as a tremendous amount of cousins. The emotion for her, the emotion for us, for all of us, is tangible. Even if Sabrina never comes back, she will always have that trip and know in her heart where she comes from, and it really, really matters. San Pietro Apostolo is nestled in a valley of the Apennine Mountains in Priscilla, between the rivers Corace and Amato, about 2,500 feet above sea level. They enjoy good sun, mild climate. Historically, there were grapevines in the valley, olive trees, cherries, figs, every kind of fruit tree that you can imagine, and of course garden vegetables. Higher up in the village, we have chestnuts, pines, oaks, and fir. Economically, all of these are important. It's an agrarian society, so all of this was very, very important in their existence. The production of wine and the harvesting of olives, making of olive oil, cherries and figs and fava beans and chestnuts and lumber. All of these are just extremely, extremely important to the economy of the village. And these are our names. These are the families in San Pietro Apostolo. Of course, there are others now, but these are the original names, Mazza, Tomaino, and interestingly, Mazza and Tomaino are the founding names. But then came Siriani, Ciambrone, Peri, Talarico, Sacco, De Santis, Pingitore, and Grandinetti. And that picture, that's the family Ciambrone. One of the little boys in the front is Ralph the tailor, Ciambrone, who emigrated to Long Branch and was apparently very, very well loved. Another one of them is Saverio Ciambrone, in whose house I live now. I love that picture. So we start with my journey home. I first went to San Pietro Apostolo in 1992. Interestingly enough, my father took this picture down the street that's right in the back of my house, and it's right outside of what is now my back door. And so anytime that I feel that I miss my dad, I just go to that spot knowing that he stood there, and I can be together with him looking down our street now. It's wonderful. So we went in 1992 looking for the family Mazza in San Pietro Apostolo. We drove into town and asked the first man that we saw, we're looking for the family Mazza, and he laughed and he said, well, the whole village is Mazza. And from there we discovered that he in fact was a cousin of ours. We entered the house, they made pasta for us, we pored over old pictures and cried and laughed, and it was an experience that I will never forget. In 2018, I was honored and was able to reclaim my Italian citizenship through descent, through the consulate in Texas. I was able to and had to prove that no line was ever broken, and was able to attain my Italian citizenship. With that passport, however, I felt and continue to feel very strongly that there comes a responsibility to learn the language and the history of my new country, just as my great-grandparents did when they emigrated to the United States. Hopefully, I'm continuing that journey, but hopefully I've done pretty well. The next time I returned to San Pietro Apostolo was in 2019. So my husband and I took a trip that summer to exercise my new passport. And we actually ended up spending a week in San Pietro Apostolo. My cousin Donna from Hamilton, the great granddaughter of my great grandfather's brother, who settled in Hamilton and sponsored my great grandfather to immigrate, um, joined us, and we spent a week like no other week, where we continued to meet cousins and continued to be embraced by this wonderful, wonderful family, and these wonderful people and this wonderful town. We were embraced like prodigal children. It was on that trip that we actually found the house, which is right there. That orange house in the middle, or yellow house at that time in the middle. So, interesting story about that. It took the next 3 weeks for my husband to convince me that we should buy the house. It didn't check off any of the boxes at all that we had talked about for our entire married life about a house in Italy. But he ultimately convinced me, and for me, it's been the most amazing decision and the most amazing adventure and journey ever since. So in February of 2020, I returned to San Pietro Apostolo to essentially sign the papers. My cousins had taken care of everything, and it required a few months at least to do. But I was able to return in February. 2 days later, went to the notaio in Catanzaro and signed the papers, and found myself a homeowner in San Pietro Apostolo, Italy. Again, another experience. I spent the month getting to know cousins, getting to know the land, exploring roads, and seeing things, and being in a place that I never ever thought that I would become a part of. Unbelievable. I did. I returned 3 days. I returned at the end of February back to the United States, and 3 days later, thank you, COVID, the world closed down, and I was devastated. I was absolutely devastated. All I really wanted to do from that moment on was to go home. Luckily, because of my citizenship, my husband and I were able to return, because we were Italian citizens and a spouse of an Italian citizen, returning to their home in Italy. So we spent 2 weeks in quarantine, at which time, during which we painted the house and did everything that we could inside. But in the meantime, pizzas were delivered, groceries were delivered, paint was delivered, fruits and vegetables were on our doorsteps. It was an absolute remarkable 2 weeks, followed by probably one of the best summers that we've ever had. And our adventures began. So a little history about the town and about the area. In 1623, there was a tremendous earthquake that completely decimated the central part of Calabria. A little village called Motta Santa Lucia, was destroyed. This is actually our home village. But the people that remained asked the Prince Cicala in Tiriolo if they could farm his lands. Now, again, we have to talk about feudalism and the system of government and the system of the society that we were in at that time. Prince Cicala, the son of a very, very wealthy family, originally from Messina and then from Genova, actually had just bought the entire region. That is our region, that is our zone, incorporating a number of villages and of course all of the people in them and all of the land. He owned everything. So these people who had lost their little homes in Motta Santa Lucia went to the Prince Cicala and asked if they could work some of his land. It just so happens he had just bought this and realized that he needed to have some people to do something with it. So he said, of course you can, of course you can. And of course there are associated taxes and tariffs and all of the things that go along with a feudalistic society. Originally they went up higher in the village. And when you come, I can show you exactly where that is. But because of the wind and the significant difference in the weather, they decided to move down below. When they moved down below, which is now where the church is, they discovered a French encampment that had been abandoned by this French garrison in the 1500s. So there were French troops there in the 1500s as they were fighting the Holy Roman Empire and Spain, so that they could gain this land. Apparently, the fighting got worse somewhere else, and they abandoned this garrison. They abandoned this area. And so the prince said, "That would be great. Go there." They went there, and as they were building their houses and doing their town, they apparently found a small statue of Saint Peter, and for that they named their new home San Pietro Apostolo. So again, a very agrarian and self-sufficient society. Agriculture, sheep, goats. The wealthier families built grain mills. There are two rivers down below the village where the Amato and the Corace. There is an area down below the village where the Amato and the Corace rivers meet. And that's where they built these mills, and people would come down from the towns to mill their grain. So everything, again, self-sufficient, agrarian, and pretty and definitely rural. So economy is all coming from the land. The beans and chestnuts, olives, cherries, garden produce, lumber is huge. Sheep's, goats, and pigs. It's absolutely remarkable. So how did they make clothes? What did they do? And again, we have to remember there were no cars. There was nothing. They were themselves. They were isolated in this little region. So silk making had been introduced to Sicily and to Calabria in southern Italy by the Byzantine monks, and it became a major industry for them. Everybody in town had and raised silkworms, and they made silk thread that they subsequently brought to Catanzaro to be woven. Here on the left, we have a picture of, this is a plant called ginestra, which is actually extremely fibrous. And they were able to extract the fibers from this plant, ultimately make thread, and then make them into fabrics. Everybody in town had looms. Everybody wove. Everybody sewed. Again, self-sufficiency. So these are our two churches. Our Chiesa Madre, our mother church, is San Pietro Apostolo in Piazza Roma there. And there you can see the plaque from the with regards to the pews, the money that was sent to fund the pews, the new pews for the church in 1999. From Long Branch and the San Pietrese in Long Branch. So we celebrate our patron saint San Pietro Apostolo on June 29th. And then we have our other church, our Madonna del Carmelo, or the Our Lady of Mount Carmel, built later in the mid-1800s. And we celebrate her from July 14th through July 16th. We also have another saint, the Madonna della Lettera, most interesting. She was adopted here in San Pietro Apostolo by a family, or brought with a family from Messina after an earthquake in the 1700s. She is still the patroness of the city of Messina in Sicily, but during the 1700s, after the devastating earthquake in the 1700s, they immigrated to San Pietro Apostolo, and they brought their patroness with them. So we celebrate her as well. So our traditions continue despite the immigration that continues to this day. Continue to be a lack of jobs, a lack of infrastructure, continues to be political unrest, and continues to be diminishing hope for the future. It's always the same story, and it's always the same reasons, and it's always the same story. There are those who stay, and there are those who leave, and there are those who leave and return. But the traditions will continue. Traditions of family, food, and community. And these are just too precious to lose. Each generation drifts further away. It's now time to come home. People want to come home. I really have felt this sense that there's a desire to return to simple and clean and authentic. People are seeking tradition and roots. They're seeking to get back down to the basics. And just like my father always said, you never, ever forget where you come from. And thus became the project of San Pietro Apostolo, Come Home to Calabria, where you can discover Italy in a whole new way. Why did I do this? I got tired after the first couple of years of living there of hearing everyone saying that we're dying, the village isn't what it used to be, there's nothing here anymore, everybody's leaving. And I think of the tenacity and the courage of my great-grandparents. They left here with no education, no money, no idea of the culture that they were getting into. And because of them and their courage, I was able to have this life and these opportunities. Did they plan on coming back? Did they plan on returning? Did they know that they would never see their family again? And how did they feel when they realized that the streets weren't paved with gold? I mean, they sacrificed absolutely everything. I just felt very strongly and continue to feel very strongly that it is now my turn to give back to this village that gave so much. I refuse to believe that the village is dying, that there is nothing there. There's so much there. And that's what we can talk about now. I refuse to believe it. And I guess everything that's in me that is American says, no, we can do this. And so that's what we decided to do. I was happily retired, and then this came along. So it's not something that I can turn my back on. So my job and the job of our nonprofit, because we are a nonprofit organization, I make no money on any of this. The whole goal is to bring money into town, to try to create jobs, to take care of our town, to build our town and rebuild our town, so that we can reestablish pride and reestablish a sense of identity in who we are. I want to make it easier for those who want to come home. It is 100% not a touristy place. There is no tourist infrastructure. There is not the English language all over the place. The project is set up so all you have to do is enjoy. We have done and we continue to do the more difficult parts, the logistics, and we are able to provide everything that you could possibly need for a wonderful experience. A wonderful experience of coming home. There should be no reason for you not to be able to do this. So we tailor experience packages exactly the way you want it. You tell us when you want to come and what you want to do, and then we forward to you. We make it up, and forward back to you your whole experience package. You tell us what you want, and we make it happen. It's all under the umbrella of the nonprofit. Again, we are a nonprofit both in the United States and in Italy, so everything is clean and pretty well wonderful. Pretty well wonderful. All you have to do is tell me what you want and show up, and it's all done. The first thing that you'll do is you'll meet your driver or me at the airport. And Giuseppe, this is wonderful. Giuseppe Soriani is a young man who left and came back, and he decided that he wanted to be back in town. He wanted to be close to his family, and he wanted to be where his home. He wanted to be home, and he decided to start a transportation company. So he has a van, and he has jobs that take him all over the region of Calabria, transporting people to and from the airport, to and from different places. Tropea he goes to a lot, Pizzo, Crotone, he can go to Sicily, everywhere. And he is available for us. But he is one of the young people in town who has decided to stay in town and make a life for himself, because it's just too important to be home. So we now have housing available. We obviously have transportation available. We can help you with a rental car if you want, a translator if you want. We can help you with taxi services to just go on little jaunts. We can have, again, Giuseppe can take you to wherever you might want to go and whatever you might want to experience. So this continues. These are our packages. So again, you will get this as well. This was, I think this is Rachel's package, an 8-day package with us that included breakfast, breakfast and tour of the town and available houses, a trip to the archaeological park. Again, it's all spelled out. You tell us what you want, we make it happen. We give you the entire package price. You pay us once, and then when you come to town, you do nothing except open your wallet when you want to buy souvenirs. This is the package that we actually set up for a family that came to rediscover their roots in Philadelphia, which is a small town just south of San Pietro Apostolo. One of the big things that we do is a cooking lessons, and we used to call it cooking lessons. Now we call it our experience, our kitchen experience, our cooking experience. We started out in the kitchens, and there's my mom and my aunt and cousins, and then also the group from Philadelphia. With cooking lessons and again experiences, now we have a house in the country, just about a half a mile outside of town, in the olive groves. Absolutely beautiful, a traditional country family home, where we cook together, we eat together, we dance, we sing, we have live music. These professional, extremely accomplished musicians who come to us, and they play traditional instruments. That horn there that my cousin Bruno is playing is actually probably over 250 years old. But I say professional, accomplished musicians. These are professors at the Conservatory of Music in Cosenza who are still so deeply tied to their Calabrian roots, that this music is still so important to them, and to society as a whole. It's absolutely amazing. The amount of food and the amount of wine and the amount of dancing and laughter and community that we share in these kitchen experiences is absolutely unbelievable. So we also have a synagogue, the first synagogue in Calabria in over 500 years. So if you didn't know about the traditional and if you didn't know about the roots and the history of Jewish people in Calabria, it's really quite rich and remarkable. Rabbi Barbara Aiello, who was actually born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, but her father was born in Serra Stretta, and her ancestry is there in Serra Stretta. She has made her way across her life and has now settled in Serra Stretta for the last 20 years, if I'm not mistaken, and has opened this beautiful, beautiful synagogue. So the Jewish people in the 1400s were expelled from Spain. The king of Italy at the time, and the king of Naples at the time, said, yes, of course we'll take them. And so he embraced them and allowed them to enter Italy with open arms. So they searched around and ultimately settled in Serra Stretta, because of the mountains surrounding, and so they felt very protected from the people and the people who really wanted to kill them. So they brought with them many traditions, like the processing of the ginestra plant. They actually taught the people of Calabria how to extract the fibers from that plant to make their fabrics. Also cooking with olive oil and eggplant, and the mixing of sweet and sour flavors. All kinds of what we call traditional Calabrese or Calabrese traditions were actually brought to us from these Sephardic Jews that came from Spain. So we have olive harvesting experiences where you can come and you can help us harvest olives, and then you can bring your olives that you've harvested to the frantoio, to the olive mill, and watch as they get processed, and then watch as this amazing liquid gold comes out, and you put it in a bottle and you take it home. So people ask about, what about extra virgin olive oil? What about this and the cold pressed and the not? I don't know anything about that. I just know that I take olives to the mill and I go home with oil, and it's the best oil that I've ever had. And of course, no experience in the olive groves would be complete without a picnic under the trees. It's again an experience that you cannot describe until you live it. We celebrate our gifts from the land. These are chestnut trees And end of October, beginning of November, you'll walk and you'll see women, especially bent over, picking chestnuts off the ground. So the chestnut trees drop these beautiful spiny balls to the ground where they split, and then the chestnuts emerge. The most beautiful, beautiful brown that I've ever seen. And they collect those, and historically took them to the drying houses there in the regions, in the areas under the trees, to be dried and roasted, and then ultimately ground into flour. And if you've never had chestnut flour bread, or bread made from chestnut flour, it's so good. It's sweet and absolutely delicious. Still now, they don't roast them there in the area, but they take them, sell them just as nuts, and then they're taken off by others to process. It just became too expensive to do that by themselves. But chestnuts are still, continue to be an economic factor in the village. Again, we celebrate the gifts from the land, and we live off the land. So we another experience that we've had is making sauce. So we gather tomatoes, and we sit in my cousin Franca's garage, and we clean the tomatoes. We cut the tomatoes. We boil the tomatoes with, of course, big sprigs of basil. Then we grind them to take away the seeds, and then we put them in the bottles. And of course, all the way along in this process, we're talking about the verbs that are required to do this. So there's a little Italian lesson in here too, but it's remarkable. In addition, at the end of the day, we have the pasta with the fresh tomato sauce that is out of this world. Another thing that we did, and I did this just before I left San Pietro Apostolo this year, is we make soap. When they butcher the pigs in the wintertime, nothing is wasted. And a very traditional thing that they used to do with this pig fat is make pig soap. So they render the soap, which means they heat it until all of the impurities are out of it. It actually turns from this yellow, fatty thing, liquid, to this beautiful, beautiful white. They add lye and a little bit of detergent, I think, and it makes soap. So it's a very, very strong cleaning soap. This is not for your face because it's too harsh, but it's for laundry and stains and floors. There hasn't been yet a stain that I've not been able to take out with this soap because it's all fat. It grabs fat and grease, and then it attracts it to itself. Surrounds the stain, essentially surrounds the particles, and then washes it away, and then water washes it away. The high pH of it breaks down the oils. It kills a lot of bacteria, and it cuts smells. It's pretty much the perfect cleaning soap. It's all about the business of cleaning. It's really horrible for your skin, but it's great for cleaning. And the saying that they say is "lava pure l'anima." It washes. It even washes your soul. It strips everything, dirt and skin oils. Everything is gone, but it's very functional for what it is. So even more experiences that are available. This is the archaeological park in Borgia, and there's a ruin of a Norman church and cathedral, but even more so, there are ruins that have been unearthed not only from Roman, but then even further down Greek times. So the story is that there was a wealthy baron who owned the olive groves, all of this olives and olive groves on top. They had to dig something for water. They had to dig a pipe for water, and they discovered this amazing ruins. They continued to excavate, and they found the entire town here underneath, complete with a amphitheater and burial grounds, and it was all there, and it all is there, and it's extremely well preserved. So we have Lanificio Leo, which is the oldest textile producer in Calabria, has been in existence since 1873. There is a museum which is phenomenal, but it has become through time and generations. They've not forgotten where they come from. They have not forgotten their traditions, and they have been able to join now tradition with modern innovation and make some of the most beautiful pieces. And continue to innovate and continue to seek out how they can combine tradition, the old and the new. So Squillace is a village just north, and they are known for their ceramics, have always been known for their ceramics. But back in times of Byzantine eras and in ancient Mediterranean practices, there's this technique called graffito, which is a surface decoration method that has been passed down and continues traditionally. So we then found ourselves in Crotone and Belcastro. Crotone is an ancient town. This is where the Greeks came in 700 BC. This is the seat of Magna Grecia. A little place outside of Crotone called Ciro is where they grew their grapes. In 700 BC, they brought their grapevines with them, and these are descendants of those same grapes. So we found a little family vineyard, which I just love. I love that we get to help them in their journey. I love that it is not an industrial vineyard, an industrial winery. It is 100% family owned, and an amazing experience. So, again, Crotone and Belcastro. Belcastro is very interesting. It was a town that was absolutely dying until one of its residents, who was an artist, decided to start painting murals. And he started to paint murals throughout the town of like Disney characters. And this one here is Alice in Wonderland. But there's Peter Pan and there's Brer Rabbit. They're all different kinds, and I think he originally started to do it for his kids. The town got involved and paved the roads, and it feels like you're walking in Wonderland. It's absolutely beautiful, and now people go to this town by the hordes. It has regenerated and rebuilt that whole renewal of towns and the spirit of all that is. It's absolutely wonderful, absolutely wonderful. So this is the little town of Tiriolo, which is actually where they used to own us. The prince was there and the castle is there. But we also found this little bodega on the top in Centro Storico. Most interesting. And he sits in this little shop, not to sell anything, but simply to show people how they do it, how it's done. He carves little puppets and things out of wood. He carves instruments out of woods, musical instruments, but also he carves the weaving shuttles, and he carves kitchen instruments and kitchen utensils the way that they used to. He has a loom and a sewing machine. He does embroidery. He makes traditional costumes and outfits that are just absolutely to die for. This is all still alive in our small villages in our region of Calabria. And then, of course, we have our Nido di Seta. So 10, 12 years ago, three young people who had left the small town of San Floro, which is right 30 minutes away from home, maybe 20 minutes down toward Catanzaro, had left to go to university to discover and to be and to all of those things that young people do. But then they decided that they wanted to go back to San Floro. They wanted to go home, and they wanted to rediscover the art of silk making. And that's exactly what they've done. They have had a number of challenges, but have done amazingly well, and now are the exclusive supplier to Gucci for their exclusive natural fiber line, and are just doing amazingly well. One of the wonderful things about this place is you go to the museum, then you go and you look at the worms, and you discover the amazing life cycle of silkworms and everything that entails. But then they also have a restaurant. So after all of this, you walk through the mulberry trees, the grove of mulberry trees, which they have replanted and regenerated, to a restaurant where everything is 0 kilometer. It comes from the land, and the food is absolutely beautiful, presented beautifully in this little country restaurant right in the middle of the trees. An experience that you will definitely not want to miss. We have imported our Wild West Pistolari. These are our Pistolari. It's a troupe of Italians and my husband. My husband is a cowboy reenactor here in the United States, and we decided, because the Wild West is so, so honored and revered in southern Italy and actually all over Italy, we imported costumes and all the other accessories required to form a Wild West Pistolari troupe. And so we do shows and entertain, and it's so much fun. So much fun. These people enjoy it, both the actors and the audience. It's an absolute riot. So another thing that you can do is nothing. And this is something that's very close to my heart. It's the art of doing nothing. We have, really lost that talent. But here in San Pietro Apostolo, you 100% can do that too. You can just sit and listen to the bells around the goats. You can just listen to the silence. You can listen to the breeze. You can listen to, or you can just not. It's just an absolutely wonderful place to do absolutely nothing if that's what you want to do. Of course, there's roots tourism, and we 100% would love to help you to rediscover your roots, to see if there's anyone that we can find in town or in the surrounding towns that you are related to. A journey that is 100% worth it. So this right here is a picture of the birth certificate of my great-grandfather, Giuseppe Nicotra, on my mother's side, who emigrated from Castagna. But to go and to touch the pages, somebody wrote his name in the 1800s in that book, and now I'm able to touch and to see it. It's a remarkable feeling. And so this is what we're all about. This is the great-grandparents of Rachel Smith here in Long Branch, and she brought her grandparents home. After all of these years, she brought her great-grandparents home. A family came home. This is the Tomaino family, one of the many Tomaino families. The woman there on the left with her son, she immigrated when she was 5 years old. Has been back a couple of times, but her son wanted to have an engagement party for his bride-to-be. He called me 3 days earlier and said, "Do you think we could do that?" And so we pulled it together. We had the florist, and we had music. We had the bar all set for aperitivi, and then we went to a restaurant, and it was absolutely wonderful. And by doing this, we were able to bring money into the villagers and bring money to town, and to also help them to realize that there are a lot of people who really are intrigued and interested in our town. And this they're very surprised about. People want to come home. People want to do this, and we just have to help them to do it. So these are our 100% American friends who have been with us now for 2 summers, just for an authentic Italian experience. We went to the beach. We made tomatoes. We made the tomato sauce with them. We learned a little Italian. We discovered some other very interesting things, and there was just a lot of relaxation and good times together. And this was just an example. This is Rachel's trip. Again, an amazing experience for her. We had an experience in the kitchen and in the country. We joined 2 other groups, actually, because the more the merrier. But we were able to find her family. And again, I think I cried the entire day. It's extremely emotional. It was extremely emotional for her. It was extremely emotional for me as well. To look at family resemblances and to think about the fact that we are all family. So these are families that just dropped in. People come into town and they knock on doors. And of course, nobody speaks English. And so my Italian friends bring them to me. And we've discovered this is the Graziano family, the Pingitore family, and De Santis family. And we're very, very, very excited to meet them. And excited that they have discovered and rediscovered their home, and are excited to know that they will be coming back. We also had another family come from Georgia, actually. Unfortunately, I didn't get a picture. But her family on her mother's side was actually from San Pietro Apostolo, which was just again, remarkable. Just absolutely remarkable. This is the Matza family that came home. Again, my cousin Donna from Hamilton. And she lives for the day that she can come back and see us. Interestingly enough, her family, her father started in 1958 or 59, a store in Hamilton, New Jersey, selling kitchen appliances, flooring, carpeting, small appliances, television sets, etc. In the same year, in San Pietro Apostolo, his cousin, the father of my cousins now, of our cousins now, started the exact same store. So time, distance, language, nothing can separate family. There is something there that ties us. This is Father Anthony. Father Anthony Siriani came home, and although he has been to San Pietro Apostolo a number of times, he's never slept over. And so we were able to provide him and his friend two beautiful apartments. Father Anthony was able to come celebrate Mass with Don Pasqualino, reunite with his family, and he really, really, really wanted to go see Rabbi Barbara, at the synagogue, so we were able to do that as well. The picture there on the bench was just before he fell off the bench and broke his ankle, God bless him, but he soldiered on and was able to get to the synagogue the next day. So it was, again, just an experience never to be forgotten. This is another family, Nicotera, who came home, and he brought the three of his friends with him. We had another incredible country experience. And that fountain there that you see, we took a walk through town, of course, but that fountain there is where we actually get all of our water from. We don't buy water in the grocery store in plastic bottles. We go there, we fill our glass bottles up with water, and that's what we drink. So again, just remarkable homecomings. This is the Pingitore and the Pingitore family who came home and helped with olives. Here we are. Taking the pits out of the olives so that I can process them and make them delicious. Roy did discover the fact that you can't eat olives right off the tree. So there's that. It takes a little bit to do them. But they were actively looking for a house. I think we're getting closer. I hope we're getting closer. I think they're actually planning on coming back this year, and maybe we can figure something out. Again, the idea is to regenerate the town. You don't have to come for long stays. You don't have to come forever. You don't have to come every year. But the fact that you have ties to town, and the fact that as a result of your presence, the town is rebuilding, not only economically, but rebuilding their pride and rebuilding their sense of relevance in the world. This is an important little place on so many levels. So this is a group from Texas and from Tennessee. How, you say? Well, these are friends from high school, from childhood of my husband's, who decided that they wanted to come and have a true, authentic Italian experience. We went to Belcastro, we went to Crotone and Tropea and Pizzo. We had ice cream and delicious fish at the restaurant in Tropea. We again had an amazing country cooking experience, and they wanted so badly to put their feet in the Ionian Sea, so we were also able to do that. An olive experience. My cousin Frank, on the Nicotera side, wanted to celebrate his birthday, and so he came, and we celebrated his birthday, and then got to the hard work of harvesting olives. Again, amazing experiences in the olive groves with family. This is Mary Risden and her friend Tracy, who came and rediscovered their roots. This was a little bit more challenging, but I was finally able to find cousins through one picture that Mary sent. I asked around. I advertised on Facebook. I looked all over town for what could be this house that her grandmother was stepping out of. We ultimately found the house. We ultimately found the cousins, and the cousins don't live there anymore, but they came from Catanzaro Lido to meet us. We ate together. We just had wonderful times together. And this is Anthony Tellerico Jr. Just happens to be the mayor of Eatontown there in New Jersey. We discovered his family as well. He had a lot of knowledge about his family prior, but we were able to find his cousins in town for an amazing family reunion. So again, just another heartfelt, warm experience. So what's happening this year? This year, we will greet 7 young men from Regis Catholic High School in New York City. They have asked if they could do their service project, so they will be helping us in their service project. And we've asked them to help us to clean and maintain our cemeteries. We have 2 cemeteries, and cemeteries are extremely important. Clean and maintain our cemeteries, but also, probably more importantly, to help us to establish a database so that we can have a searchable database of everyone and everywhere our ancestors are in these cemeteries. So cemeteries are an amazing experience. For the most part, there are pictures of the deceased on the tombstones, on the graves. And sometimes this gives us the only glimpse of them as like human beings. They actually lived here. They actually existed. I just think it's absolutely wonderful. So they are sacred spaces, definitely, our cemeteries, and definitely places that are visited often and cared for well. So another thing that's happening this year is we're actually having a yoga retreat with a group of women from East Texas. How did this happen? This happened because I talk about the project all the time. I talk about San Pietro Apostolo all the time. They overheard me and attached to me and said, we want to do that. We want to have a retreat in your little town. I said gladly. So we will have 7 women from East Texas joining us to do a yoga retreat in September, if I'm not mistaken. So what else is happening this year? Well, this could be you. You could be happening to us this year. We're waiting for you. This is my partner in crime, Santina Tomaino, my best friend. And we are waiting for you. We're waiting to welcome you with open arms and lots of love as you continue to explore this beautiful region and all of the traditions that are associated with your past, your present, and hopefully your future. So my mom and I found this little refrigerator magnet when she was with me. I can't remember the first or the second time. But you can travel all over the world. You can go to Italy. You can go to Calabria. But in the end, all roads lead home. And so they didn't have a little arrow pointing to San Pietro Apostolo. So I took a popsicle stick and I made a little arrow so that you can always know how to come home. So our traditions are rich and beautiful, and they're too rich and too beautiful to lose. We want to welcome you back, children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren of those who left. We want to help you discover your story, your history, and your roots. We want to provide for you an experiential, immersive experience where you can live and feel and become a part of this place. We also feel very strongly that it's time to give back to the ones who gave you the opportunities that you've had. And we're helping you to do that. We have to honor their sacrifices. That's at one of our festivals, the Madonna del Carmelo, if I'm not mistaken. Each feast we have, sausage and peppers, of course. Sometimes we have a spezzettino, which is a traditional tripe dish. But all are offered, and all are amazingly delicious, amazingly delicious. But the smiles and the warmth and the embraces that you will feel when you come to town are like no place else. So I thank you all for your time and attention. Obviously, this has become my passion, but it is work that must be done for all of us and for our children, for our grandchildren, and our great-grandchildren. I thank you. Thank you for your support, both financially and emotionally. Your belief in this project makes all the difference. And again, bringing back to my father, we must never forget where we come from. I offer you now the Venmo and Zelle scanning codes. For the Zelle, I think you have to go to your bank site and then scan the code in. Venmo, you can just scan it directly. And we do appreciate all of your contributions and all of your donations. They are 100% tax deductible. So if you would like to contribute, I certainly can provide a receipt for you. Just to ask me. And I would be more than happy to do that for you. Again, I thank you so much, not only for your financial support, but for your emotional support in all of this. This whole sweep and my whole week and the presentations that I'm doing this week, this is for my boys, my high school boys that are coming. Anything that you can do to help them get to San Pietro Apostolo and stay in San Pietro Apostolo to do the work that they're going to do is greatly, greatly appreciated. So again, I thank you. I thank you very much.